In that Supreme Court opinion, the Supreme Court ruled the individual mandate in the health care law is allowable only because it's a tax. So what does the decision mean for you, the taxpayer? The Congressional Budget Office estimates the health care law will decrease the federal budget deficit by $143 billion over 10 years. It's expected the cost of insurance coverage will go up by $788 billion. But that amount would be offset by a $511 billion decrease in spending and a $420 billion increase in revenue over the same period. Lots of billions in all of that. Here to help us understand what the ruling means for the overall federal deficit and your pocketbook, Texas Congressman Jeff Hensarling, Vice Chairman of the Financial Services Committee. He was co-chairman of a deficit reduction committee as well. So are taxes, Congressman, going up as a result of this health care ruling?
Well, they absolutely are. They already were to hundreds of billions of dollars. And now the Supreme Court, in what appears to be somewhat tortured logic, has said a fine is a tax. They're going up even further. So we know, number one, the Congressional Budget Office says this bill weighs in at roughly $2 trillion. You had $800 billion of taxes. Already since its passage, an average family of four is paying $2,200 more in insurance premiums. The bottom line is the Affordable Care Act is not so affordable for taxpayers, for families, and for our dwindling federal treasury, aside from its constitutionality.
Lost in all of the furor among conservatives over Chief Justice John Roberts' vote to essentially go to the liberal side or align himself with the liberals and allow this law to stand, is this quote in his opinion. Wendell Golder just touched on it. I want to read the entire thing for you. He writes, "Members of this court interpret the law. We possess neither the expertise nor the prerogative to make policy judgments. Those decisions are entrusted to our nation's elected leaders, who can be thrown out of office if the people disagree with them. It is not our job to protect the people from the consequences of their political choices." He seems to be saying, hey, if the president and the Congress want to pass a law like this, far be it from us on the Supreme Court to decide whether it's a good idea or not.
Well, the Supreme Court had their say yesterday. The House, the People's House, will have their say the second week of July. We will vote to repeal the president's health care plan in its entirety.
But you've done that before.
And we're going to do it again. It's front and center. It's what the American people want. It's a threat to the patient-centered health care system. It's a threat to our national treasury, and it's a threat to job creation. And then finally, last but not least, the people who are still sovereign will be heard on the first Tuesday in November. And I think they'll say, you know what? We don't want the 12,000 pages of regulations. We don't want the 159 boards, commissions, programs getting between us and our doctor. These are very personal decisions about our family's health care. And so, again, this is thrown back into the legislative and political arena, and we'll have it relitigated on Election Day.
The president says, you know, it's time to move on. We can't fight the battles of the past. This is sort of old news. It is settled law. What do you say?
Well, the national debt is crushing this nation. He's had the worst economic and job growth record since the Great Depression, and one of the great impediments to both of those happens to be his health care. Listen, the debt is constitutional. It doesn't mean it's a wise policy. Just because his health care plan may be constitutional by a 5-4 decision of the Supreme Court does not mean it's good policy. It needs to be repealed because it hurts our health care. We can't afford it. It's hurting job growth.
You say repeal it, and the House has scheduled that vote to do so. It's almost certainly expected to pass. You've already voted that way before, as I noted, but the Senate is certainly a roadblock for you. Is there?
Well, there's something new here. Now all of a sudden we know that the fine is a tax. A lot of people campaigned on the fact that they would never impose a tax on anybody making less than $200,000. According to the Supreme Court, the policy does just that. So a number of people who said they would never impose a tax on those making less than $200,000, they'll have an opportunity to put their vote where their mouth is when the House moves for full repeal the week after next.
So you think there are some embattled or maybe retiring Democrats in the Senate who might vote against the law as it stands, might vote to repeal it?
We'll see. They'll have to, again, make sure their vote comports with what they've said, they'll have an opportunity to do that soon.
All right. Calling it a tax could change the name of the game. Congressman Jeb Hensarling, Republican of Texas.